Hi everyone! So today we are going to be talking about creating some fun pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. So to start, we're going to need a white piece of paper and a pencil. A little later, you're going to need a Sharpie or a black marker for outlining, and then either some crayons or colored pencils when we're going to go ahead and color our pumpkins. So to start, when we're wanting to think about creating our pumpkins, we want to think about what pumpkins look like and the shapes that they have. Now, pumpkins grow in nature. They're natural, so they're going to come in all different shapes and sizes. You might have little miniature pumpkins. You might have a more traditional round pumpkin. You might have an oval shaped pumpkin, and it kind of looks a little flat on this side because they grow on the ground. So if they're laying on one side might get a little bit flat. So however you make your pumpkin today, guys, and whatever shape it turns out to be, is going to be great because we want them to look natural. We don't want perfect circular pumpkins. Pumpkins are also not perfect circles because they're 3D, and a 3D circle is called a sphere. Pumpkins also have these lines where they kind of look like they grow in sections. So we want to definitely create that kind of lumpy, bumpy look to them. So to start, I want to start by putting my pumpkin, I'm going to figure out where I kind of want to put my first one. Do I want to start in the middle? Do I want to start on the sides? I'm going to go ahead and start on my side here, and I'm going to do a more traditional shaped pumpkin. So I'm going to try to go more round and wide rather than long and tall. So my trick for making our pumpkin is I'm not going to draw a circle shape because, as I said, circles are flat shapes, 2D shapes. We want to make kind of a sphere, and we're going to do that by creating some ovals that are going to start to overlap and create those sections of our pumpkin. So I'm going to start here on the side, and I am going to make an oval. So once I have my middle oval, that's going to be the middle of my pumpkin, I want to start creating some more edges in the sides to it. So all I'm going to do is kind of towards the top of that first oval, I'm going to draw a half of an oval on the right side, and then I'm going to repeat that on the left side. So you can see I'm just kind of creating a half of an oval shape that connects from the top to the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat this. So I'm going to start where I stopped on this half oval, and I'm going to make another half of an oval shape. This one's a little skinnier, and then again on that left side. So there is kind of my basic pumpkin shape. It gives it that illusion that it looks like it is rounded. So once I have that, now I want to go ahead and add a stem to my pumpkin because pumpkins grow on a vine, and so they have those long stems. So to make my stem, I want my stem a little wider at the bottom where it connects to the pumpkin and a little skinnier towards the top. So I'm going to start by drawing kind of a curved line because I want my stem to be a little curvy. Then I'm going to draw a straight line, and then I'm just going to draw another curved line that gets a little bit wider towards the bottom. So it should look kind of like a curvy rectangle. So it should look like a little curvy rectangle. Once I have that, I can also add another little small curved line on each side that just gives the illusion of the back side of the pumpkin. So there's my first little pumpkin shape. So now I want to start creating some more, and this is where we're going to talk a little bit about overlapping. So overlapping is when you put something in front of something else. So you can see my first pumpkin here, he is overlapping the big pumpkin. So the big pumpkin's in the back, and then my smaller pumpkin's in the front as well. So they're both overlapping this big pumpkin. The reason overlapping's important in our picture is it gives the illusion of space and depth. Meaning that if I had them all in a row along the same line, it's a little bit boring. There's really not showing that there's any space or that they're filling up that area like they would naturally sit outside. So by creating the overlapping, it gives the illusion that this one is in the front, this one's a little bit further behind, and it gives that idea of space. So I want to do that. And I'm going to make a little bit of a taller pumpkin, so I'm going to go more oval shaped for the pumpkin I kind of want in the back. So I'm going to, again, start with my oval, except this time it's going to be a lot longer of an oval. And then I'm going to repeat those same steps I did here. The only difference is that when I'm drawing this side and I start to run into this pumpkin, I'm not gonna draw through it because that would mess this pumpkin up. I want it to look like it's behind. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop, and then I'm just gonna pretend that I'm still drawing that line and then just pick it back up at the bottom. That way it gives the illusion that this one is in the front, and that's really important to creating this idea of overlapping. All right, so there's my tall oval pumpkin. So now I'm gonna add a stem, and maybe I'm gonna make it curve the opposite direction. All right, so there's my tall one. So now I have a little bit more space. I think I'm gonna add like a little mini pumpkin. I could even add another one in the background here. That's kind of your choice. Once you start making them, kind of figure out where can I fit my pumpkins, how many do I want. However many you create is great. Now for this little one, I want this one to be in the front of my oval. So I did draw through it. So what I would do is I'm just gonna go back in and I'm just gonna erase the lines from the oval pumpkin to make it look like this little mini one is in the front. All right, so I think I'm gonna stop here at 3 pumpkins. Now, of course, to add some more details to our picture, if you wanna turn your pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns by giving them facial expressions, you can do that. When you are thinking of the faces that you want to make, think of the emotion that you might wanna show. Like I made this one, since it's a mini one, I made it like a little baby face, like he's smiling. This one is scared or shocked because I made with the oval mouth. So it looks like his eyes are nice and wide and he's got this oval mouth. This one I kind of made look like a little bit of like a skeleton face. If you want them to be scary, you could do more sharp teeth. If you want them to be silly, you can make little silly faces, eyebrows. Any kind of details that you want to add onto them are great. I even have one that I added. Like this one's got some sunglasses, and you can see I added little eyebrows, which give great expression. So think about different faces that maybe you could add onto your pumpkins to give them some personality. Okay, so once I added my faces, then I want to think about where I kind of overlapped these. I can go back in with my eraser and erase those little lines, or if you're gonna color them in black, you could leave them when you go to outline and just kind of fill that space in. But if you have overlapped any of those lines on your pumpkin, go ahead and erase so that we no longer see them going through those lines. The other things that we can do, friends, for the background is adding some more details to our pumpkins, such as like vines or leaves, since they grow on, like I said, they grow on these vines. They have these nice big leaves off the pumpkin, so you can maybe add some of that to your picture, kind of filling in this open space here. You can also create a background, and that's totally up to you what kind of background you want to do. I have had kids who have made like a sunset background. One made a scarecrow in the background so it looks like they're at a pumpkin patch. Another person drew it so that they look like they're sitting on somebody's porch, which is fun. I kind of like to just do a simple nighttime scene. So there's really any possibility of what you think is going to look good for your pumpkin. So I might draw like a little moon here and then maybe some stars. Really, guys, sky's the limit on how you want to make your backgrounds. The other thing I suggest is if you have a lot of open space here at the bottom, just adding some like little lines to make it look like they're sitting on the grass. You could also maybe add some little like grass lines towards the bottom of your pumpkins. Just helps with the illusion that they're sitting on the ground. Okay guys, so once you are done drawing, then you want to go ahead and outline. You can use a black marker, Sharpie, whatever you have available, but definitely outlining in black helps our lines stand out so that when we go to color, we're not going to lose any of those nice line details. So when it comes to our pumpkins and coloring, I want to show you how to create this look of this kind of ombre effect where I've got it darker at the bottom, a little lighter towards the top. And this is just going with that illusion that we're giving it some shadow and some highlights. And the reason we do that is it helps to look more realistic by having some color change. Pumpkins can come in all different colors. Some areas might be lighter, some might be darker. But when the light hits it at the top, it's going to be lighter. And if it's sitting on that ground, it's going to be a little darker towards the bottom. So we want to go ahead and create that when we are making our pumpkins and coloring them, so they're not just a plain orange. The other thing you can do, friends, is if you want to make your pumpkins look like they're glowing, so you can color in the face black if you want to show that it's like dark and carved. But if you want to look like it's glowing, my trick is to use a really bright yellow or even a highlighter. So if you have a yellow highlighter at home, this is what I like to use because it's really going to give it that kind of glowing effect. So if you want to use kind of a yellow or a bright highlighter, if you have one, this is something fun that you can do for the insides of the eyes or nose and mouth on your jack-o'-lanterns to give it that glowing effect. Awesome. All right, so you see how kind of bright and neon that is, and it kind of really stands out. So as for coloring our pumpkins using some lights and darks, you want to get some crayons or colored pencils. Marker is a little harder to blend colors, but colored pencils and crayons seem to be able to blend the best. So if you have those, you can use them. Watercolors, you could also use watercolors if you have those as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate using crayons. So before I got started coloring, I want to pick out a couple different oranges that I want to use. So I was looking for, like, this one's a burnt orange, a medium orange, a light orange, and then kind of this golden color. I also have this kind of more orangey red color that I used on this one. So any of these kind of mixes that you can find are great, but you want to pick out about 3 to 4 colors that go from kind of a darker to a lighter color. So to give this effect where it's darker at the bottom and gets lighter towards the top, what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna start on my little guy here. I'm gonna start with my darkest color, so I have this kind of burnt orange. And I'm gonna start here at the bottom, and I'm gonna color going kind of in this upward motion. Now with crayons, the nice thing, the harder you press, the darker the color, so maybe right towards that bottom, I'm gonna press down a little harder. But as I go up, I'm gonna use a little less pressure and get lighter. So once I go up a little bit, then I'm gonna move on to my medium color. So this is just kind of a regular orange. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure to overlap. So I'm definitely gonna overlap the color that I used before, and then again, kind of come up a little bit lighter. Then I'm going to switch to an even lighter orange. So again, kind of overlapping it a little bit with the first orange that I did, and then getting lighter towards the top. Then I'm gonna go ahead and take this golden color. I don't want super bright yellow because that's not gonna blend as well. So I kind of like to use that kind of gold and yellow color. And you can see it's just kind of this nice transition from a little darker to a little lighter. And I'm gonna continue that across my pumpkin. So I'm gonna start in each kind of section, starting with the darker color, and then medium, lighter color, and then to golden. So you want to kind of create that as you are going up, and this is going to give it that effect where it's darker at the bottom, lighter towards the top. Okay, so you can see my cute little pumpkin there has that color blend from darker to lighter. Now the other thing I'm going to show you is on this bigger one, how to create the look of that the light is coming from the front. So on these two, I made it look like the light source is coming from the top, so lighter at the top, darker on the bottom. The other effect that you can do is making the light from the front, so it's going to be lighter in the center and get darker towards the edges. So I'll show that on this one, but either technique is fine for you guys to use. But you kind of want to pick one for your picture so that the light source looks the same, but I'm just showing you as an example. So if I'm wanting the light source to be in the center, I'm going to start with the lightest color first here in the middle. And then I'm going to switch to the next lightest. Again, you can kind of overlap them a little bit. Okay, so you can see for that one, the light source is from the front, so you've got the lightest color in the middle, and then it gets darker towards the edge. And then you would just repeat this for the other sections as well. Okay, so now that I have that middle pumpkin done, then it's time to color the other pieces. So stems, leaves, any background items that you might have. For the stems, what I kind of like to do is I like to do a mix of like green and brown. So I kind of find like a darker like forest green, and then I just like to mix it with a brown color to make the stem. Again, however you decide to color yours is fine, but you do want to go ahead and make sure you're coloring all of those other pieces, background, the ground, to finish off your picture. Okay, so there is my completed pumpkins. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I can't wait to see what you make.